cannot think of sustainable development. So every citizen of the country will have a bank account. And we need to set that target as soon as possible to achieve the sustainable development. And also the innovation in technology like the government initiative, Bangladesh Bank initiative, payment switch, fund transfer, internet fund transfer, ATM, POS, and now enabling us to go to the poor people, to the unbanked people, with the banking service that was not possible earlier. And fintech and digital banking goes together, and we have 180% of GDP value being transacted through the system of Bangladesh Bank. Blockchain is coming, also coming the AI, so we need this system to integrate with our own system and take the full advantage of these changes, and this will make life easier. I'm an optimist person, and always I talk about the future. Now we are talking about the KYC. Tomorrow it will not be an issue, because today Google knows more about me than I know myself. So this is not the obstacle for tomorrow. The KYC will be much more easier than we think it today. And also the AI. Every customer will have an AI. So we are working on this, that the AI assistant will lead the customer for the banking service and banking planning as well. Not only the corporate customer, it will even be the people at the village level. Agent banking, I must mention our immediate past governor, Mr. Atir Rahman, was very instrumental in developing this model in this country, and Bank Asia is the pioneer of it, and now 19 banks are working on it, and the force is so much, and the promise is so big, that we can tell very easily within the next 5 years, every village of the country will have a financial kiosk, every union will have a digital booth, and almost 90% of the population will be under banking service, common banking service. Whether they take it or not, will not leave any people unbanked. That is our promise for the future. So with this bank account, will come the MFS, will come the MFI, will come the fintechs with different services. So bank account is the anchor for every service, financial service we can think of. We need to skip most of the things because now it is already discussed, rural-urban population, but one promising thing is that in agent banking, almost 70% of the population are coming from the village, and more than 80% of the accounts, agents are in the village level, 90% almost are from the village level. So the disparity of account we can address by this time through agent banking. The 17 SDG goal, out of that 7 goals are directly related to financial inclusion, as we know. And I like one word from Dr. Khalikuজ্জামান, financial inclusion for dignity. Let us build this slogan. Let us build this for the development of sustainable growth. This is very important. As a banker, I must be self-critical as well. With all this money flowing to the corporates, we have created a society. The disparity is widening. From year to year, The disparity 0.46, it is now 0.48, almost touching 50. So it means that we have failed somehow to do our job. One of the job for the banker is the efficient distribution of capital. And we believe agent banking and financial inclusion will solve many of these problems in future. We have a newcomer like Novel, a service provided by the post office, which can also solve some of the problems. This is the picture. We can see what Agent Bank has done to the rural people and SDG goal achievement. Loans and deposits, as I said, especially we are now working with different partners to extend small loans to the poor people, to the marginal people. And there are many MFI partners here, I see, and there is a big conflict and understanding, conflict of understanding, not the job. The understanding is that the bank is taking away the business of the MFIs. No, let the MFI and bank partner and work together for this microcredit. There are some places we can never reach. We have no knowledge about the people at the grassroots. So you have better knowledge. Let us build partnership and move forward for this development. What I am trying to tell that technology, I know there are many critics when we started agent banking in this country. But now we are happy to see that many people are now working for this. The change is always disruptive. And now, as I say, within the next 5 years, we will see that this country is transforming to a developing country with almost 90% of the people having bank account. That is now a reality, and it will happen very soon. And it is possible now with the change of business model, technology, and digital finance. Let us work together, and I hope that this message will reach to our partners, to all the people. We are competing. We are not killing one another. So let us build this consensus and work together for the greater development of the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ali, for giving us a very, very smart picture of the financial inclusion. Whatever we learn from him, that is all about technology, that technology for human benefits. Tagore once said that if you are using castor oil for lighting, you cannot go on doing it forever. You need to have electricity. But again, you need electricity for all. So certainly we need technology for financial ease, but we need that for all. And that's where Mr. Ali is telling that 90% of the people will have access, mainly because of the technology. So the future of finance is all about digital, all about technology, and that's what he said. Now I think it's high time to bring in another technology presentation, promoting digital finance innovation through regulatory sandbox in Bangladesh. The next steps, Ghalib Ibn Anwar Aziz. Sandbox has already been introduced, so move ahead with your presentation, but your time is only 5 minutes. Thank you.
Can you have it in screen, please? So thank you, sir. As the time is short. Yes. So in this study, I have actually tried to explore if we want to launch a sandbox in the Bangladesh context right at this moment. So what is the relevance? What are the features and operational considerations and challenges we have to consider? So it's mostly relevant for our regulators, and also we appreciate suggestions from our service providers as well. So in this study, I have followed, this is a scoping study, qualitative, and mostly I have relied on desk research and semi-structured interviews with stakeholders. So first, let me start with the context. So we all know the context that we started the journey almost a decade ago under the leadership of our former governor. And then the market is now transitioning, and it's almost in a mature stage to evolve in the next level. And already in the last couple of years, our major guidelines, the policy regulations have been streamlined, the agent banking guideline, the PSP, PSO guideline, and MFS regulations, etc. So at this stage of the market, we are expecting that fintech innovators, they will come up with disruptions. So disruptions will come from both local innovators and global innovators as well. And at the same time, our existing operators, they will come up with cross-sector products and new channels through which they will penetrate the untapped market. So these are high potential, high risk innovations. So how regulators will evaluate the merit of those propositions, whether they will allow it to fully scale up in the market or not. And there is a regulatory uncertainty related to that. Because as a new fintech innovator, I have an idea, and if the central bank is taking 1 year just to judge the merit of my proposition, then probably I'm losing the context and the market and the competitive relevance of my product. So there should be some regulatory mechanism through which, in a controlled environment, it can be tested, piloted, and observed by the central bank and other regulators, and then given the authorization if everything is okay. So from that context, there are different models in the global best practices we have observed. So one is regulatory sandbox, one is innovation office, and another is RegSec. So there can be debate that which one to start with. So my argument is we should now, at this stage of the market, we should start with regulatory sandbox, not the innovation office, though many may differ. Because now we can not only cater the need of the innovators just through providing them regulatory guidance. Rather, in many cases, we need live testing with a live controlled market environment, and that is only allowed through the regulatory sandbox framework. And RegTech is much more advanced model and mostly adopted by advanced economies where the technology is more advanced and the regulators and service providers have more expertise and diversity in service offerings. So regulatory sandbox is a framework that is actually hosted by the financial sector regulators to allow the innovators to test their products, services, and innovations in a small scale. And based on that live testing and observation, then the regulator will allow to give clearance whether it will go to the market with full licensing procedure and etc. So already 35 sandbox have been made operational globally and 18 are in the pipeline. So Bangladesh should actually consider this immediately because it takes long time, like a minimum 6 to 18 months to set up a regulatory sandbox we have seen in global context, depending on the availability of expertise and resources. So what benefits it will bring for the regulators? So it will help in more informed policy making and at the same time update the regulatory framework. Like for example, in our MFS regulation, so we only know that what type of licensing is authorized for existing services. But if a disruptor comes in with completely new type of services, how that will be channeled in the market. So now the central bank has a policy of giving no objection certificate, and in many cases the operator or the proposer has to wait for like 6 months, 8 months, 10 months. So they are losing the market. So that uncertainty will be reduced. And finally, the consumers, their risk will be minimized, and at the same time product diversity will increase in the market. So in terms of sandbox models, so there are 3 options from which we can choose. So one is product testing sandbox, one is policy testing sandbox, and another is thematic sandbox. So product testing sandbox allows the innovators to come up with any new product and service and then go for live testing. Policy testing sandbox is mostly facilitated by regulators to test the relevance of a policy, which is in our case not very relevant right at this moment because we just streamlined our policy in the last 2 years. So our policy is more or less relevant and okay. And thematic sandbox are to test particular technology or new innovations in a particular domain. Like Bank of Thailand, they tested the relevance of QR technology with a targeted group of customers. Or Bank Negara Malaysia, they are coming up with very like low-income group targeted products and services. So those thematic sandboxes can be also mode of consideration for us. But my proposition is we should start with the product testing sandbox, targeting the innovators, mostly the fintech innovators, and it can also allow some sort of thematic test. Like if we want to test the relevance of eKYC in partnership with our NID authority, our central bank and other regulators in the financial sector, we can also take 2 or 3 operators and test in 1 or 2 particular districts with different segments of customers. And based on that test, we can come up with a full-fledged eKYC guideline. So what are the features we should keep in mind when we go for designing such a sandbox? So first, it should include the features of an innovation office. So these are 2 different mechanisms. Many countries have started with innovation office and then moved to sandbox. But in our market context, we should have a full-fledged regulatory sandbox mechanism, but it should have some sort of built-in features of the innovation office. Why? Because from the experience of Monetary Authority of Singapore, so they incorporated this feature. So they received around 140 applications, and among them, 40 were given regulatory guidance to the innovation office, and then only 10 were continued for live testing. So it gives a filtering process, and it reduces the burden on the regulators to go for every test. So these tests are costly, time consuming, and requires resources. So innovation office will actually minimize that time consumption. And at the same time, coordination mechanism among multiple operators is very essential, because if it is led by the central banks or other regulators like IDRA, MRA, Stock Exchange Commission, so they should also participate in it, because many of the new innovations will be cross-sector products. So if tested by Bangladesh Bank and authorized, and then when they are tapping the microcredit channel, if they require another layer of authorization by microcredit regulatory authority, so there is no meaning of running a sandbox model. So this mechanism should incorporate the coordination mechanism among all relevant regulators, and we should target high volume driver sectors, particularly from the financial inclusion perspective, like the agro value chain, the retail micro merchants, micro and small businesses, and women-led businesses, etc. So there can be like challenge-based cohorts where we invite the innovators to develop particular products for women MSMEs, or particular products for like agro value chain actors. So that can be facilitated by the central bank. So what are the operational considerations? One is very adequate preparation, because I have already stated that it takes around 6 to 18 months. Adequate resource deployment, human resource deployment is very essential. Otherwise, like, market landscaping at the initial level is very important. Otherwise, like, the regulators may be overburdened with like hundreds of applications, and if they take much time to process it, then the innovators will lose their interest in the sandbox process. So from the very beginning, good performance is essential in this case. Outreach in 3 stages. So one is to inform the innovators that this type of sandbox facilities are available. Second is learning and documentation of those lessons and sharing it with the stakeholders for more informed decision making. And finally, a matchmaking opportunity with the investors, so that central bank, if they actually facilitate this matchmaking opportunity, so then it will give local investors and foreign investors more confidence that these products are tested, these are authorized by the regulators, and now we can invest in it. Initial capacity building, and I have proposed 2 layered operational mechanism, where a dedicated sandbox team will be comprised of representatives from multiple regulators and a senior level sandbox oversight committee. But the buy-in from the senior leadership is very important, particularly from all regulators. And there should be performance indicator and measurement. So it's complicated, and mostly other central banks are doing it in 2 years basis. Yes. And intake model can be flexible. So the next step should be a rigorous feasibility assessment, resource deployment, and a time-bound target that within these like 8 or 10 months we want to launch the sandbox model. So with that note, I would also like to declare that UNCDF is supporting sandbox in Sierra Leone. We are closely working with Bank Negara Malaysia, Bank of Thailand, and Singapore Monetary Authority. So we are also happy to support the central bank and regulators in the Bangladesh context to go forward with such initiative. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. This was a very, very optimistic presentation, but just for the novice, Bangladesh Bank is already coordinating with the other regulators. We regularly used to meet every 3 months with all the regulators to coordinate, and the kind of coordination is talking about, I think still is in place, and I think only thing is that you need to bring in this thematic agenda into that coordination meeting, then this will be happening. And finally, we are already doing some sandboxes, probably not calling sandboxes. A lot of innovations are taking place already with the existing ones. Say, for example, on EKYC and others, these are already on, and they are practicing. I think more is needed for the coordination with the election commission and the central bank. With the system is on, now we have to really help, and others are coming in. Probably our panelists will be speaking on that. One good news is that we are not going to have the fourth paper. The presenters are not here, and this is we will go straight to the panelists, and I will request the panelists to remain within 5 minutes so that we can have the lunch, at least late lunch, in time. First, Khondakar Morshed Millat, General Manager, Sustainable Finance Department of Bangladesh. He has worked with me, I know him. I wish he could be given more time, but maybe next time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Respected personalities sitting in front of me, honorable panelists, presenters, good afternoon. Actually, I have a very brief to talk because time is very limited. One thing I would like to say that Bangladesh Bank, the Central Bank of Bangladesh, whatever the regulations they have issued, those are very much on the consultative approach. And those consultations covering all stakeholders concerned to that issue. We were listening to mobile financial services. We know that the regulation which came out, as we said, that in 2011, and 28 banks were licensed to provide services on MFS. But the regulation that added value in 2018, it's an exhaustive mobile financial services regulations, and what the value addition to that is the subsidiary that any new application looking for mobile financial services, it must require to have a subsidiary. That is the compulsion in this 2018 regulations, which was not that much specific in 2011 regulations. The point is that it has been well said in the presentation that it is working very nicely, but you see that once the 28 banks were licensed, but only 16 banks are practicing mobile financial services. So what about the rest 12? So having license for practicing mobile financial services is something, but not in a position to practice on that. What does it really mean? It's meaningless. So these things need to have some clarification and some explanation. If we could have some sort of explanations on that, or the approach in the paper, that could be more benefit to the listeners and who are practicing. So what I would say that the current regulation, Mobile Financial Service 2018, it has is a very rich one, because it has covered all the things, and also BFIU circulation 20 in the 2017, that has given the scope for the customer protection, and that is very important. When you talk about the protection, then the confidentiality, the integrity, the what I would say, the authorization, and the that is the confirmation that the authenticated person is going to have it and it is not being disabled. So these things, and also regulatory oversight and awareness capacity for all the concerned stakeholders is very important. All these things, and also the record protection, record retention, everything is there in the mobile financial services. That has been well said in the presentation. But the thing is that is the customer protection is very important, and the awareness capacity building for all stakeholders is very important. But the regulatory point of view, the license are giving and taken from by the mobile financial services, they should have some capacity building through exchanging their views and practice so that they can have their step. And one thing is that once they have the license, if for the 12 months they are not doing nothing, then the license may be cancelled. It's there. So the pressure is on and is being monitored. The other thing is that about the technology. But once we talk about the technology should be incorporated in such a manner that we have known that technology comes earlier, then it practices, then regulations follows. But the regulations, technology, and practice, this should be matched in such a manner that should be a correlation between these three, so that the beneficiaries, so that the service itself, the product itself is blessed with. Now I would like to come to the second, that is the agent banking. Agent banking really
তো নানা রকম বাধ্যবাধকতা আছে। কোনো মতে যদি আপনারা বলেন যে আমাদের অন্তত 150 জন ওয়ার্কারের জন্য আমরা will be allowed. It's so sad that we actually, can I have this? That we take so long to do things which actually can be done very easily, just because we are blocked by regulation, just because we are blocked with a lot of suspicion, and not that it's একেবারে unfounded যেটা না, আমরা তো অনেক খারাপ কাজ করি, কাজে খারাপ কাজ করি বলেই আমাদের অনেক রকম সন্দেহের শিকার হতে হয়। But at the end, if we can come out with some kind of a credibility, then it works. এটা খুব সহজ, দেখেন একটা লগইন, একটা টেমপ্লেট আমাদের ওয়ার্কাররা অলরেডি করছে। ভাই এই কি জিনিস একদম পছন্দ করি না আমি ম্যাক ছাড়া করতেছি এই জন্য। সো জাস্ট একটা ওয়ার্কার লগ ইন করবে, আপনাদেরকে জাস্ট একটু কষ্ট করে আমার পাশে দাঁড়িয়ে থাকেন আপনি। আচ্ছা, থ্যাংক ইউ। এবার দেখেন আমরা কি করাচ্ছি, একটা হলো ওর অ্যাকাউন্টে, ওর অ্যাকাউন্ট প্রোফাইল। ওই প্রোফাইলে গেলে ও বেসিক্যালি ওর বেসিক ইনফরমেশন গুলো আছে, ওর রক্তের গ্রুপ কি, ও কোথায় থাকে ইত্যাদি ইত্যাদি। আমাদের প্রত্যেকটা ওয়ার্কারের কিন্তু আইডি আছে। অ্যাট দ্য সেম টাইম কিন্তু আলটিমেটলি কিন্তু ন্যাশনাল আইডি দিতে হবে না। শেষ করিনি। এটার পাশে দেখেন লেখা আছে পেমেন্ট। সে পে করতে পারছে, তারপর সে ট্রান্সফার করতে পারছে, এবং সে ক্যাশ আউট করতে পারছে। হ্যাঁ, তো ক্যাশ আউট করা মানে হলো যে সে ফেরতটাও পাচ্ছে। তো এটা অনেক সময় অনেকগুলো, যেমন ইউনিলিভার বলেছে যে আমি বলেছি ওদেরকে যে 500 টাকা পর্যন্ত ভাই ক্যাশ আউট করতে দিও, এর বেশি নেওয়ার দরকার নেই। পরেরটায় যাই, ছোট্ট করে টেমপ্লেটগুলো দেখাচ্ছি যে বোঝার জন্য যে মিথ্যা কথা বলছি না। এটা প্রোফাইলে করা আছে, পরেরটা। I'll finish in less than 2 minutes if I can get through this. Okay, so couple of very worthy partners who are in there. I বিকাশ না এখানে আপন, ইউনিলিভার, স্বপ্ন, এদেরকে রাখার চেষ্টা করছি। স্বপ্ন এখনো কথা বলে, এটা মানে এটা ঠিক না, কিন্তু আমরা আপন আর ইউনিলিভার আর ভেরি মাচ অন বোর্ড। এখানে যদি দেখি আমরা, হ্যাঁ, থ্যাংক ইউ। এখানে রকেট আছে, বিকাশ আছে, নগদ আছে। নগদে আসলে আমরা এখন দিচ্ছি না, বাট রকেট এবং বিকাশকেও আমাদেরকে মানে দে আর ভেরি উইলিং। আমি সরাসরি বলেছি আমাদেরকে, দেখেন আমরা এটা করলে কিন্তু ওয়েজ কিন্তু আমাদের মাধ্যমেই এই ন্যাশনাল প্ল্যাটফর্মে চলে যাবে, আপনারা কিন্তু আর পাচ্ছেন না। কিন্তু একটা জিনিস হচ্ছে, সেটা হলো আপনারা অনেক বেশি ওয়ার্কার পাচ্ছেন, অনেক লোক পাচ্ছেন, এবং আলটিমেটলি ইট উইল বি আ ক্যাশলেস বাংলাদেশ সামডে। If Estonia could have done it, we can easily do it. So it is going to be cashless. So let's start the journey. দেখি তো ওরা মানে মোটামুটি রকেটের থ্রুতে করতে পারে, অন্য মানে হ্যাঁ দেখি আর কি আছে, টাকার পরিমাণ, পিন নাম্বার দিয়ে, এটা সহজ আর কিছু না, জাস্ট বোঝানোর জন্য আমরা আসলে কাজ করছি। সো what I'm trying to say is that this is not a world of competition anymore. It's a world of co-opetition, where you collaboratively compete or you competitively collaborate. So it's co-opetition, so it's not a question of any vendor or any one bank making profits. It's about everyone, and it's about everyone being their best. It's about ideating, it's about coordinating, it's about convincing, it's about accessing, having the right access to the right people. আমি যদি কারোর সামনে গিয়ে দাঁড়িয়ে বলি ভাই আমি এটা করতে চাই, একটা সুবিধা আছে নারী হিসেবে, জানা যে কম মিথ্যা কথা বলি, পুরুষরা বেশি বেশি মিথ্যা কথা বলে, আমার দিকে তাকিয়ে সবাই বুঝেছে না থ্যাংক ইউ মহিলারা তালি দিচ্ছেন। তো আমি বললাম যে ওই অ্যাক্সেসটা থাকা একটু বেশি বেশি না, পুরুষরাও বলে। আচ্ছা, আরেকটা হলো যে ইউ হ্যাভ টু এট টাইমস এক্সার্ট অথরিটি, যে যার জায়গায় আছেন, আইডিয়া যে করতে চান ধ্যাস করে করে ফেলেন। আরেকটা হলো ইউ হ্যাভ টু বুলডোজ উইথ কারেজ। So please be with us, pray for us so that we can actually take this to the next level, so that we can have maximum impact and so that we can include everyone. যারা কাজ করতে চান, প্রত্যেকটি ব্যাংক, প্রত্যেকটি ভেন্ডর, এখানে কেউ কিন্তু 1 টাকা লাভ করবে না, মানে যে যার মতো করে করবে, ডিপেন্ডিং অন দ্য বিজনেস মডেল, BGMEA 1 টাকা লাভ করবে না। অল উই ওয়ান্ট ইজ, আমার কিন্তু এখানে মেম্বার ফোকাসটা না, আমার ফোকাসটা আমার ওয়ার্কার। কারণ এত দুর্নাম বাংলাদেশে শুধুমাত্র আমাদের এই ওয়ার্কারদের রক্তচোষা মালিক বলে বলে, ইটস টাইম ফর আস টু চেঞ্জ ইট অলসো। সো আই বিলিভ ইন ডুইং গুড, ফিলিং গুড, and of course
Thank you.
being good. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Haq, for really completing this round. And we will be going for lunch very shortly. I must thank the panel, the presenters, the paper presenters, and of course the audience, such a great audience. Shuru kori, what Dr. Haq was talking about. Actually, she was talking about regulatory sandbox, although not speaking the same words. So many actors working together on using technology. Actually, that's called regulatory sandbox, and you have done it. আমরা অনেকটা পথ এগিয়েছি। আজকের আলোচনাতে দেখতে পেলাম যে গত 5 বছরে বাংলাদেশ ফাইন্যান্সিয়াল ইনক্লুশনে বা 10 বছরে যথেষ্ট এগিয়েছে। IMF এর যে 2018 যে ফাইন্যান্সিয়াল অ্যাক্সেস সার্ভে, ফ্যাস সার্ভে, তাতে বলছে যে বাংলাদেশ about 7% গ্রোথ হয়েছে তার ব্যাংক ব্রাঞ্চে, আর মোবাইল এজেন্ট যে সংখ্যাটা 3 গুণ বেড়েছে এই 5 বছরে। 2013 সালে 187টা ছিল, যেটা 667টা হয়েছে পার 1 লক্ষ মানুষ অ্যাডাল্টের মধ্যে। সো থিংস আর প্রোগ্রেসিং। এবং একটু আগে শুনলেন যে অনেক সিস্টেম একসঙ্গে কাজ করছে। এজেন্ট ব্যাংকিং এ বড় পরিবর্তন হয়েছে, এবং ডক্টর মিস্টার আরফান আলী হ্যাজ গিভেন ইউ দ্যাট নেক্সট how we will be moving into blockchain and other technology মধ্যে আমরা এগিয়ে যাব, এবং technology will be our arbiter. সুতরাং and Dr. Haq, Rubana Haq also wants to join the race. This caravan is not a 100-meter sprint, it's a caravan, এবং এই ক্যারাভানে আমরা সবাই একসঙ্গে হাঁটবো, তাহলেই দেশটা এগিয়ে যাবে। আমরা একটা সার্ভে করে দেখেছি যে যারা এজেন্ট ব্যাংকিং এখন করছেন তাদের মধ্যে 20% আমাদের বলেছেন যে আমি কোনোদিনই ব্যাংকে আসতাম না যদি এখানে এজেন্ট না আসে, এজেন্ট ব্যাংকিং চালু না হতো। সো এইভাবে আমরা ফাইন্যান্সিয়াল ইনক্লুশন এগিয়ে নিয়ে যাচ্ছি, এবং বাংলাদেশ হ্যাজ আনপ্রেসিডেন্টেড গেইনস ইন টার্মস অফ ফাইন্যান্সিয়াল ইনক্লুশন। কিন্তু আমাদের যেটা করা দরকার সেটি হলো যে কোনো অবস্থাতেই আমাদের পলিসি কনসিস্টেন্সি কন্টিনিউ করতে হবে। আই এম হ্যাপি দ্যাট বাংলাদেশ ব্যাংক and the other regulators are really pushing the agenda of financial inclusion. তবে মাঝে মাঝে ডিসরাপশন হচ্ছে, পলিসি ডিসরাপশন হচ্ছে, সেটা খেয়াল করুন। আমি একটা উদাহরণ দিই। আমরা একটা সিদ্ধান্ত নিয়েছিলাম যে যারা বর্গা চাষি তাদেরকে আমরা বাংলাদেশ ব্যাংক থেকে রিফাইন্যান্স দিব, দিয়ে নন ব্যাংক বিভিন্ন এনজিওর মাধ্যমে তাদেরকে নিয়ে যাবো। একটি বড় এনজিওর সাথে কাজ শুরু করেছিলাম। 4 লক্ষেরও বেশি বর্গা চাষি ইতিমধ্যেই তারা 5,000 কোটি টাকা পেয়ে গেছে এবং 99% তারা টাকা ফেরত দিচ্ছিল এবং তাদের ছেলে মেয়েরা লেখাপড়া করছে, স্বাস্থ্য ভালো হচ্ছে। তো সব মিলে this was a very positive trend because these are the richest of the earth. You know, the sharecroppers hardly have any access to finance of any kind because they don't have land, they don't have any papers. So I thought that was an excellent model which Bangladesh Bank was following. I don't know why this year they stopped it on the question of the rate of interest. Rate of interest is an issue I don't want to get in, you know. আমি খলিল ভাই আমরা মিলেই আমরা কিন্তু কতগুলো ঐক্যমত্যে পৌঁছেছিলাম and we avoided Andhra scenario in Bangladesh. সুতরাং এটা নিয়ে আবার নতুন করে এটা কেন টেনে আনা হচ্ছে এবং কারণ